Hi guys, this is your lesson for 2.2, which is the point slope form. So by the end of the lesson, you will be able to write an equation using point slope form. For this one, this is our little warm up just to review what we talked about yesterday. We did talk about finding the slope between 2 points, and we did talk about finding slope from a graph. So if you could pause the video and see if you can try these 4 and then come back and we'll check the answers. Okay, so hopefully you came back and you have all your answers. Just as a reminder, when we have 2 points, the equation is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. When you're labeling your points, make sure that each point gets an x and a y, and that your first point gets 1s and your second point gets 2s. I always mark them. It just makes it a little easier when you're going to substitute your values in here. Now make sure that you always have your minus in there. So y2 is 9, minus y1 is negative 20, x2 is 9, minus our x1 is negative 5. Now remember, when you have minus minus, they become plus plus. So all 4 of these are going to change to the positive. You don't always see that, but in this case, both the top and the bottom, we need to change to opposite signs. So 9 plus 20 gives me 29. Over 9 plus 5 is 14. And let's see if we can simplify that. 29 divided by 14. Whoops, sorry, did not mean to write that on there. Let's try it over on the calculator side. 29 divided by 14. It gives us a decimal, but let's see if we can simplify the fraction. We cannot, so we are going to leave it just like that. So 29/14 would be our slope. Okay, it is okay if it is improper. You can go ahead and leave it that way. All right, let's talk about the one over here. So again, I have x1, y1, x2, and y2. And if I sub them in, I have my y2 is 20, minus my y1 is negative 5. All right, then my x2 is 18, minus my x1 is also 18. Okay, so I have my plus plus on top, so I end up with 25 on top, and I end up with 0 on the bottom. If you try to do 25 divided by 0 in your calculator, you're going to get an error, and that's because we're not allowed to divide by 0. So this one is actually an undefined line. Okay, and if you remember, undefined lines, when you graph them, is just a vertical line straight up and down. Okay, so if you ever see a divide by 0, it's an undefined line. All right, finding the slope from our graph. So these ones we're going to count rise over run. So you have a choice. You can use the points that they gave you, or you can use any 2 other points, as long as they are actual good points. And what I mean by good points is they have to cross the grid on the grid marks or the crosshairs. So for this one, I can see, let's see, this one looks like a good point. And then that one. This one's a little bit harder to tell. So I probably would be safe with going the 2 that they have labeled. Okay. So I'm going to do rise over run. Okay. Remember, we always read our graphs from left to right. So since this point is on the left and this point's on the right, we are going downhill. Okay. So I know right away this is going to have a negative slope. So I have to go down how many? So I want to be on the same level as this one. So I need to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. So down 7 is negative 7. And then I have to go to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, notice how I counted the lines and not necessarily the spaces. Negative 7/9 cannot be simplified. So that would be our slope. Okay. Now, when it comes to this one over here, it looks like this definitely is a point. Whereas, like I said, this one right here kind of looks like it is a point, but it may not necessarily be. Whereas this one's a little bit more accurate. But either way, let's use the 2 points they give us. So this one, our left point is here and our right point is here. So we are rising. And so this is going to have a positive slope. Okay, so we have to rise 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces to get on the same level as the other point. And then we have to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces to the right. 4, 6 can be simplified. If I divide the top and the bottom by 2, I get 2/3 as my slope. You always want to simplify your slope if you can, but if you can't, then you can leave it how it is. Again, I knew this one had a negative slope because it's decreasing from left to right. I knew this one had a positive slope because it was increasing from left to right. Okay, and then to check that 2/3, I could also rise 2 and run 3 and see how I hit that point that I had predicted earlier. So that just shows that this one was definitely a point. Okay, so we are going to be talking about how to write equations. So this part is going to be a review. We're going to get into point slope form. And then at the very end of the video, I am going to show how to write an equation when you have 2 points. That's not something we have to focus on right this second. It's going to be coming up, but I do want to give you guys a little heads up in case you do see that. Okay, so this one here, one of the ways that we have to write linear equations is when they give us the slope and they give us the y-intercept. So we talked about this in class yesterday. Our equation for slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. This is a linear equation. M is represented by the slope, or the slope is represented by m, and b represents our y-intercept. Okay, so all we have to do is take the numbers they give us, substitute them in. So we would have y equals, our slope is 1/3, x, and then b will depend on the sign of your y-intercept. In our case, our y-intercept is negative, so I'm going to put -5. If it was a positive, then we would put plus. Okay, so that one's pretty easy. You just take what they give you and then you substitute it in. Okay. When we have them in standard form, this is another one we're going to be talking about later on this week and early into next week. So there is a way to graph it, but the best way to turn it from standard form into slope-intercept form is to solve for y. If we notice in our slope-intercept form, y is by itself. So I'm just going to recopy this over here. We have 4x, x minus 2y equals 14. All right, I want to get y by itself. So right now, -2 and y are connected together. I can't touch them. So I'm going to move my 4x. 4x is positive, so I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. Okay, so these cancel out. We get -2y equals. Now, can I take 4x's away from a whole number? No, they are not like terms. So in this case, we write them side by side. Now you could choose to write it as 14 minus 4x. I like to put the x value first because that's how we have it in slope-intercept form. So we have -4x and then 14 is positive. So I'm going to add 14 to it. Okay, I just like to keep it in the correct order. All right, my last step is to get the -2 away from the y, the inverse would be to divide. But I have to divide everything by -2. Okay, so when I divide everything by -2, I get y equals -4 divided by -2 is positive 2x. And then 14 divided by -2 is -7. So my equation would read y equals 2x minus 7. So sometimes they will give it to you in standard form, meaning that it has the x and the y on the same side, and you have to change it so that way y is by itself. The way I like to think about it is if you're looking at a graphing calculator, let me bring one over real quick. When you're looking at a graphing calculator, we have a y equals button. We don't have an x minus y button. So you want y to be by itself so that way you could graph these linear functions. Okay. When it comes to graphs, okay, we absolutely can write the equation. We have to identify the two major parts. We need the slope and we need the y-intercept. Okay, if we can find those two things, then we can write the equation. I always start with the y-intercept. Okay, so I'm going to look on my y-axis, which is up and down. I can see that this graph touches the y-axis at -1. Okay, and then to find the slope, we do exactly what we did in the warm-up. Remember, you read your graph left to right, so we're going from this point to this point. So the left point to the right. It is going downhill, so I know my slope is going to be negative. Okay, so I'm going to rise up and down. I'm going to go down 1, 2 spots to here. So that's down 2. And then I'm going to move to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So my slope is -2/5. That cannot be simplified. So we're going to leave it just like that. And then now all I have to do is plug it into slope-intercept form. Y equals, my slope is -2/5. And my y-intercept is -1. Okay, not too bad. It just you have to go and find those pieces in order to plug them into the slope-intercept form. Okay, now here is what we're talking about today. We're talking about a point and a slope. Okay, and we're going to use point-slope form. For this one, I'm going to give you the next example. So I'm not going to do this example right here. We'll come back to it in a minute. But this is what we're talking about and focusing on in this specific lesson. Then when it comes to 2 points, this one I'm going to save for the very end. We will get to it. It just right now, I want you to make sure you focus on a point and a slope. Okay. The good thing is there are 2 different ways you can find the equation when you're given 1 point and 1 slope. There is the point slope form, and then there is just another method that I prefer to use. I will show you both ways, but it will be up to you to decide which way you prefer. So first, let's talk about point slope form. Okay, so in this equation here, it says a line with a slope of 1/2 passes through the point 3, -2. What form can you use to write the equation of the line, and what is the equation in that form? So this is what we call point slope form. Okay, because we are given a point, we're given the slope, very self-explanatory. So this is the equation. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, and what we're going to do is we are going to substitute in all the information that we know. All right, we know that the slope, let me switch colors here. Slope up here is m, is 1/2. So we're going to substitute that in for m. And then we don't really need like really the 1s and 2s, but this would be our x1 and this would be our y1 because we only have 1 point. So there is no x2, y2. So if I plug them into this equation, I don't have a plain y, so I'm going to keep it. Minus my y1 is over here is my -2. All right, m is our slope, which is 1/2. Plain x we don't have, that's a part of the equation. But we do have an x1, so our x1 in this case is 3, so I'm going to subtract 3. And then from here, we solve it like a normal equation. So first of all, if I see this minus minus, I don't like that. Let's change it to plus plus. So on the left side, we have y plus 2. Okay, as soon as you see that, it just looks wrong having 2 negatives side by side. So we change them to addition. Okay, then we're going to distribute this 1/2 to everything inside. So 1/2 times x, we can keep as 1/2 x. And then 1/2 times 3, let's go ahead and write that one as a, sorry, times -3. Let's write it as a decimal, so that would be -1.5. Okay, if you want to change this to 0.5, you can. All right, so now if I'm trying to get y by itself, because I want this to be in slope-intercept form, not point-slope form, I need to move this 2 to the right. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, and then I have a choice. Am I taking it from this? Am I taking it from this? And you should be saying I'm taking it from the -1.5 because you need to take it from like terms. Okay, so we have y equals 1/2 x. And then these are the like terms. -1.5 minus 2 gives me -3.5. Okay, so you can leave it just like that. That would be our equation. If you did prefer to keep it as fractions, you can do that too. This would end up being -3/2. And then you take away 2 and let's see what -3/2. Oops, 3/2 minus 2 would be negative 7/2. So you can either have this or you can have y equals 1/2 x minus 7/2. Okay, either one of those would be appropriate. Or like I said, if you want to write 0.5 instead of 1/2, that'll be fine as well. Okay, they're all equivalent to each other. All right, so this is one option for you. You can absolutely use point slope form. Another way is one that we actually did do the other day. You guys just didn't know that you were doing this, is plugging it into slope intercept form. So we know that this is x and y, and we know this is m. So if I have y equals mx plus b, okay, I'm going to substitute everything I know into this equation. So I know y is 3. I know m is negative 3. I know x is negative 1. And this is multiplication here, so I'm going to put my negative 1 in parentheses. That way these two get multiplied together. The only thing I don't know is b. Okay, make sure you write it so it looks like a b. Sometimes people mix them up and they look like a 6. So make sure it looks like a b. Now at this point, we just solve for b. So in this case, I need to multiply these two together. So negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. So I have 3 plus b on the right. And I still have this 3 hanging out on the left. Now I want b to get by itself, so I need to subtract this 3 so that way b is alone, and I get b equals 0. Okay, that's 0. All right, so now I still need to write the equation. Okay, and the equation has to be in this form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my y and my x. The only things I'm going to replace are the m and the b. Okay, so in this case, we have y equals, m is still negative 3, x, and now I know my b is 0, so I can either write plus 0 or I can leave it just like that. This is a method I prefer, just because you don't have to memorize the point slope formula. Just substitute everything you know in for the y, m, and x, but then you have to solve for b, and then make sure you rewrite your equation at the end. It is completely up to you which way you choose. Okay. For this next one, we have 2 problems here. And so what I would like to do is I would like to use point slope form for number 5. And then I'm going to use the other method, the Miss Edwards method, for number 6. So what I would like you to do is at this point, pause your video, trying both methods out so you can kind of feel for which one you prefer, and then come back and check your answers. Okay, so hopefully you had time to try these both out, and maybe you have an opinion of which one you like better. I'm actually curious. Make sure you tell me the next time we have class which method you prefer. Okay, so if I use the point slope form for this one here, okay, remember I have my x1 and my y1, and I have my m. It's already labeled m, but I'll put m again. So we're going to go through. Remember, this y and this x are part of the equation, so they do not get changed at all. So I have y minus y1 is 5, m is negative 3. I keep this x the same, minus my x1 is 1. All right, then we're going to solve this equation. Let's simplify this right side. If I distribute 3 to everything, I get negative 3x plus 3. And over here, I still have y minus 5. All right, now my goal is to get y by itself, so I need to add 5 to both sides, and I'm going to add it to the other constant. Okay, I don't want to add it to the variables. So I get y equals negative 3x plus 8. So how'd you do? Did you get the same thing? All right, so now this time I'm going to do it the other way. So this one, we only need to know x and y. We don't care about 1s and 2s, and we know this is our m. Okay, so I'm going to substitute it into y equals mx plus b. So we are going to start with our y. 3 equals, m is 2, x is negative 4, And then our B is the part that we don't know, that plus B. Okay, so if I were to simplify this, 2 times -4 is -8. So I have -8 plus B on the right, 3 on the left. And this one I'm solving for B. So I need to do the opposite of subtracting 8 here. I need to add 8. I'm doing inverse operations. Okay, finally, 3 minus 8 is -5. So B equals -5. All right, the only thing I have left to do is to rewrite the equation. Y equals 2x minus 5. All right. Okay, you will get plenty of practice with this. And again, I will let you choose which method you want. If you want to do a combination of both, do half of them with one way and half with the other. That is completely up to you. Either method is acceptable. Okay, whoops, I did not mean to do that. Let's try again. All right, so your assignment is on Schoology. It is a document that you can pull up. And I'm going to show you some little tricks and all on how to work these out. But what's going to happen is, let me open it up real quick so I can show you. And I'm going to make a copy. That way we don't mess up my good copy here. Sorry, guys, I thought I already had it open up, but it's not open. It is problems that are all point slope. Okay. So you go into Schoology. You're going to click on My Documents. That way it makes a copy specifically for you. And then you can edit it as much as you want. So I'm going to kind of pull this over real quick while it's loading. So here's our document. If you need to zoom in and out, you can by going to View, and then you can go to Zoom. Up, we're in editing mode, sorry. Or you can change this to a number that's higher than 100%. Okay, so when it comes to using the equation editor, let's say you want to solve this and you want to type using equations. If you go to Insert, and then you see where it says Equation, that pops up and it's going to put an equation box there for you. And then here we have a lot of different options. So most of these, if you click on them, like we don't need Greek letters. We don't need the operations. We can type those in our calculators. We're not talking about inequalities, but this one right here might help you because this is where they have fractions. So you may use this portion right here. Okay, so go under the one that has like the square root. And then again, you don't need arrows, but this is the main menu that you're going to need. Okay, and then you can type all you want in here, you know, whatever it is. If you want a fraction, like let's say I want to put, delete this. If I want to put an equation, you can new equation. I want to put 1/2 x plus 9. I'm just making one up. I can type that, click my fraction, put my 1 on the top, put my 9 on the bottom, x plus 1 equals 5, or whatever the case may be. But I just want to show you how you can enter in text with the equation editor. So what you're going to do is you're going to solve, and then once you get your answer, you're going to go down to the last page, and you are going to find wherever your answer is. And you have an option. You can either cross out the letter or you can highlight it or whatever the case may be. So if you highlight it, you can just get a highlighter and just do that. And what's going to happen is at the very end, you're going to read straight down all of the ones that are not highlighted, and it's going to spell something. Okay. Once you get done that, make sure you submit it. And then there is a discussion question that's on Schoology that you can also answer. Okay. So if you are okay at this point, go ahead and start that assignment. If you would like to stick around, I will show you how to write an equation from 2 points. Okay. This is the optional part, but this is the part that's going to be graded. Okay. All right. 2 points. So when we are given 2 points, like we talked about before in slope-intercept form, you need to have a slope and you need to have a y-intercept. So this method involves multiple parts, okay? It's not difficult, just time-consuming. So we need to identify what's the slope and what's the y-intercept. So I'm just going to write that over here on the side. Slope equals blank and y-intercept equals what? Okay, well, we know when we have 2 points, we can easily find the slope. So we have our x1, y1, x2, and y2, and we're going to use that equation. Remember, it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So our y's are on top, our x's on the bottom. We have our 2's first, then our 1's. So in this case, we would have negative 13 minus negative 7 over 8 minus negative 4. Again, minus minuses. It seems like all the examples I've given you so far have that. Not all of them will. Okay, negative 13 plus 7. So that means we're going to go backwards 7 spaces. So 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We're at negative 6. 8 plus 4 is going to be 12. So this is going to actually simplify to negative 1/2. Okay, and that's our slope. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that over here, negative 1/2. Okay, so now if you notice, we have points and we have a slope. Aha, we can use point slope form. So we are going to choose whatever point you like better. I'm going to choose point 1 just because the numbers are smaller. It doesn't matter. You can use either one. So if I have a point and I have a slope, I can use my point slope form. Again, either method. I like my substituting into y equals mx plus b way better. But you can choose to do it whatever way you want. So in this case, my y value is negative 7. My m is my slope, which is negative 1/2. My x is negative 4. And I don't know what b is. That's what I'm trying to solve for. Okay, if I simplify, negative 1/2 times negative 4, well, negative times a negative is going to be a positive, and half of 4 is 2. All right, to get b by itself, I just subtract 2 from both sides. I get negative 9 equals b. All right. So my final step is I know my slope. I know my y-intercept is now negative 9. I just have to put the two pieces together and write y equals m x, and then our b is right there. So this right here is our equation. Okay, so it is possible in just 2 steps. Find your slope, find your intercept, write the equation. All right, if you need any help on this or the activity that you're doing for your classwork today, I am available in the classroom. So pop on in. I can answer any questions for you. We can do some review. Also, if you are needing to redo your formative, pop in. I will let you know which questions you need to do, and then I will unsubmit it for you. But I don't want to unsubmit it without telling you which questions you need to work on. Okay, so have a great day, ask for help, and I will see you in class tomorrow.